All right.
Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to Wampus. This is exciting to have everyone back in the buildings. I was counting last night. In my first year we did 4 principals' coffees and then we did 1, and so I think this is actually my 6th principal coffee in person. So it's nice to have everybody here. Want to welcome Dr. Lamy, the superintendent of schools. Thank you for coming.
For coffee.
Yes. Our goal is to really introduce, if you don't know me, who I am, and introduce my esteemed colleague over here, Miss Palmer, as well, when I think many people know her as well. But we want to introduce ourselves, and then as we were kind of building what we were going to do, we were kind of kicking it around, but what we really want to focus on is just some of the things in the building that your children experience that are maybe outside of the classroom a little bit, or more of the character education, and how we're really trying to build the whole PBIS framework and children being responsible. And I said this at the 3rd grade back to school night, so I'm repeating myself if you were there, but one of the things we really focus on at Wampus is becoming confident and independent, right? It's an interesting time, right? The upper elementary school, and it's such a time where you get ready for middle school. You need those things in middle school. So we've tried to come up with some frameworks and some ways to really help kids with that as they grow, let them make their little missteps and really grow from it. So we're going to talk about that, what we're doing this year, and some of the work our school counselor, Annie Schmidt, is also doing within a program called Character Strong, and different traits that they have. So that's our plan for today, all right? And then we'll have time to answer questions, have some coffee and snacks at the end, and all those good things. But truthfully, thank you for coming. It's so nice to have people in the buildings. It's just, the partnership is very important. And Mr. Lovelace told me both of these can move at the same time. All right, so my name is David Mack, as I said. I have been in the district for 16 years. I started in 2007. I was at the middle school as a school counselor for 11 years. And during that time, I had a few different roles as well, where I coached at the high school, and I also coached at the middle school, and worked very close with the administration and all the teachers there that ultimately prepared me to come over here 5 years ago, 2018, to work with Ms. McInerney as the assistant principal, and then this past summer was appointed principal, and thankfully have had the honor of working with Ms. Palmer. Ms. Palmer and I have known each other now for a long time, but worked a lot closer over the last 5 years, and I think some of Ms. Palmer's strengths and my strengths were really working together in a way where she's opened my eyes to some things from the teacher's perspective that I think has really helped the building. And then kind of the bigger picture of the counseling side, it's worked very well. So I'm very happy to be working with her, and I think we're going to have a wonderful year. Welcome to Steve, our SRO. Thank you, Steve, for coming. Good morning. Good morning. Some of the things, I won't read through them all, but these are some of the things that I've been involved with at the middle school and here, and I think one of the things we're going to talk about is really the social emotional programs. I was involved with that a lot at the middle school as a counselor, and we've really worked on that here over the last few years, and thanks to the support of the board and the district office. We have a school counselor here at Wampus now too, which if you look around the region, let alone the state, that doesn't exist a lot. So I'm thankful for the support everyone gave us, because I think, sometimes when I came to elementary school, I'm like, oh, little kids, sometimes they have little problems. That's not true, right? It's really, it starts, and I don't even want to say problems, but just be able to work through those things. And what Mrs. Schmidt's, her expertise and the program she's been working on with kids, I think it's just going to enhance their readiness for middle school. So I'm very thankful for that. And I work closely with Miss Cunningham too, one of the assistant superintendents, to kind of figure out what program we wanted to bring to Wampus. And so far we're very happy with Character Strong, which we'll get into a little bit more. I'm going to throw it over to Lisa so she can introduce herself.
Well, good morning. My name is Lisa Palmer, and I have had the pleasure of working in Farm Hills now for 20 plus years. And I have to say, I have a lot of pride in that plus. For the first 15 years, I was a kindergarten teacher servicing our youngest learners, and that was a great experience. Really seeing the growth that they go through once they walk through the doors, and really seeing them honestly every morning as they pass my classroom through 1st grade, 2nd grade. And so for the last 5 years, I got to see a lot of those same faces as they came to Wampus. And as a 4th grade teacher, I got to really see how some of the things that we teach them in Coleman Hill, how that works and helps them to be more independent and confident learners over here at Wampus. And I have to say, in the 20 years, I've served on multiple committees, both building operations-wise and curricular committees. And so with that, I have to say, there's there's an understanding of K-5 that is just vast, where their development from kindergarten to 5th grade is definitely great. And then, of course, meeting up with Mr. Mack and his expertise and seeing where they're supposed to go. There's this continuum that I have to say that happens in every single conversation. And so that's been amazing. And July 1st began my role here, and as I'm talking to some familiar faces and maybe some new faces, it feels familiar. Really getting to use some of that teaching experience to build the relationships with the kids, knowing that that sad face coming off the bus really needs some attention right away so that they can have a successful day. And sometimes it's the little things and the big things that make such a big difference. And speaking of the little things that make a difference, there was something that I used to say, everything you need to learn, you learn in kindergarten. And I know we've all heard that. And I took pride in that, but now I have to say everything you need to learn, you learn every single day. And you use it, and you learn it, and you put it into practice. And so in using this wonderful program, Character Strong, we focus on not just the big picture, but a lot of those small character traits that really help to build a person. And these character traits, Ms. Schmidt, our school counselor, she is amazing, and she's in and out of all the classrooms, and she too is building a relationship with all of our students. And these specific character traits are woven all throughout this program to really help students be able to recognize what they are and then be able to put it into practice. And currently it is being taught through the Encore period, and Mr. Mack is going to talk a little bit more about Encore. And for 3rd grade and for 4th and 5th grade, she operates through push-in lessons. And that definitely helps to give those grade levels what they need at that time. So it's been actually pretty good just thinking about mindfulness, respectfulness, and our 3-hour school rules being respectful, responsible, and safe, just seeing how that can play a part in everything. You look like you want to add something.
I do, yeah, because I actually spoke to Annie yesterday late in the afternoon, and so one of the reasons we picked this program too is because you really read through these core values. They're kind of obvious, I don't want to say obvious, but they're things we all kind of do as good humans, right? And
Yep.
What's nice about this program, as Lisa said, is they introduce them with specific lessons about what this looks like to be this, and then they give them the challenge to go actually do it out on the playground. Maybe a child, didn't have anyone to play with that day, or they looked a little sad or whatever. Like, how do you actually put that into practice? Which is one of the main reasons why we picked this program. There's many different social emotional curriculums out there that introduce you in kind of like, large group lessons and then small group lessons, but the practicality of it is why we liked it. And another reason I like it is that Annie just informed me that they're actually revamping it already, keeping with the same things, but they're combining, I believe it was kindness and gratitude into kind of maybe focus into more focused character traits. Instead of like 10, they're going to try to start doing 8, and they've revised some of the lessons too. For 3rd grade, as Lisa said, for those of you familiar with Encore, if you're not, I will walk you through that in a few minutes, but each classroom will be working with Annie within this program for approximately a month. In 3rd grade, there's 8 classes, and so essentially each month they rotate through a new Encore. In 4th and 5th, what we started to do last year was Annie actually goes and meets with the grade levels and says, tell me about your class. What's going on? What do you think they need to work on? And actually getting real-time feedback, so then she'll take those lessons based on, hey, they weren't too responsible, I got runners in the hallway, or whatever it is, and then they'll actually do those lessons, which is nice, versus it's very like packaged, like, hey, we're working on respect, and the kids are respectful. So when I first started, I got a counseling degree, right? But I was considered kind of a guidance counselor, right? That's what I always called myself. In the last 2 or 3 years, the American School Counselor Association has made it a big push to call it school counselors, just for kind of the formality of it, so I try to call everyone school counselors now that have that certification. I think Mia's question may have something to do with Coleman Hill now has a full-time social worker. We have school counselors, and probably at the high school, they're still referred to as guidance counselors. So guidance counselor, school counselor, interchangeable. Okay. Some of the responsibilities across the whole gauntlet very, very similar as well. I know Bernice at Coleman Hill is also working within this program. Jamie Karp, the school psychologist, also started to work within this program last year to see how it fits. A school psychologist generally will work a lot with students and families that have an IEP, or they are classified under Committee on Special Education. That being said, Gina Cunningham, the assistant superintendent, was a school psychologist in the middle school for many years. When I was a school counselor, we worked hand in hand with families and kids. Maybe she was doing something else, so I had to speak to a child or whatever it is. So the working relationship here between Dr. Thompson, our school psychologist, and Ms. Schmidt, along with us and really everyone, it's very intertwined. But it really comes down to like certifications is really the biggest difference. But the responsibilities can be very similar.
I'm going to talk about something that you said a couple of years ago, which really led to this school counseling at this age group. You were talking about a curriculum. And Dave said to me, Jen, we have people to deal with behaviors. And we can have an individual behavior, deal with it, the student can learn from it, right? They can grow and learn. But without having an actual curriculum, it's difficult. So that's where this came into play.
Yeah.
And from like the teacher's standpoint, I have to say, working with Ms. Schmidt last year was really great because the students had another set of ears that can listen and give them advice. Because again, it really takes like a community effort. So from the teachers to Ms. Schmidt now and Dr. Thompson, and then just all the other adults in the building, it really gives students just people, a community, a village where they feel comfortable enough to just kind of go through their day and confident to really, as Dr. Lamia is saying, have this as a barometer of something that they know that they can always refer to.
One other plug I'll do for Character Strong. So we have this K-5 group that meets to talk about how does it fit at Coleman Hill, how does it fit here. Character Strong has a middle school curriculum as well, and with the folks at the middle school, I know they're starting to look at it because there's also a sixth grade, kind of very similar to, for anyone that has a sixth grade child, very similar to our third grade encore. Sixth grade has something similar. When I was there, they called it the wheel, but the structure is the same, and they have a class with kids, which is great. And I know they're starting to think about, is the middle school curriculum appropriate for our children or not? But there might be some continuum there that might be nice, where the kids are really just hearing those things, the same things year after year. Be all three.
Be all
Go ahead, Ms.
three.
Palmer.
So we talked a lot about all these different character traits, and while they are very important, they are, well, they were 10, 9, and now the program is trying to consolidate into 8. However, it's still a lot for your third, fourth, and fifth graders to remember, which is why these 3 simple rules really kind of encompass everything: being respectful, responsible, and safe. And honestly, that's been the 3 words and the 3 ideals that they've been listening to and thinking about from since they were at Coleman Hill. So it transfers here, and in that transfer, you think about what does that look like? How does that apply in different areas of the school? And so this matrix was created. There we go. This matrix was created, and really we're still building it because it's live, it's active, to see how students can be respectful, responsible, and safe in different times of the day, in different areas. So we're thinking about arrival, and what does that look like to be respectful, responsible, and safe in the hallways, and just remembering, okay, to walk in the hallways, and just really and truly just giving them those reminders of what it can look like. And it's kind of interesting when we're having our meetings, hearing kids say, well, this is what it looks like. And so we're like, well, do you do that? And they're like, yes, most of the time.
Third graders were very eager to volunteer.
Yes.
It was like we had like 180 hands up trying to volunteer.
Fifth graders, they knew it, but they recognize that it's something that they have to practice, and setting the bar pretty high for them as role models for the school, they're actively trying to practice what they're seeing here. And then of course, the restrooms and the bus, cafeteria, like every single area of our school really requires, and it's very applicable to those three different ideals. Now, the first day of school this year, it was indoor recess.
Oh.
Yeah, every teacher's wish come true. And as you know,
We got them out of the classroom, though.
We did get them out of the classroom, but every kid just wants to go out and play. They just had the whole summer of being able to play and do whatever they want, and now they were in the classroom and they're listening and they're soaking in all these rules, and all these expectations and everything that's new, and they just kind of want to go out and play and be with their friends, and then we say, nope, not yet. And so for indoor recess this year, I have to say it was a great opportunity.
It was a good opportunity.
It really was, for us to meet with half of each grade level at a time, so say about 100 kids at a time, and we talked about what it looks like to be respectful, responsible, and safe. We had some really good conversations. Honestly, it was probably my best first day ever. I mean, it kind of was my only first day as this, but overall, I felt like we had great conversations. And so in that, we talked a lot about what this looks like all throughout the school, and each classroom this year, each classroom has their own set of rules, of course, as to what it looks like, but this is something that we're going to continue to work on.
Yeah. Anyone that's on site-based, if anyone's on site-based committee, we're actually going to, because we're going to build this with feedback from everyone, because if I were to start saying, what should you be doing in the classroom without getting feedback from the teachers, that's not going to be successful, right? So we're going to listen to the students and the teachers and site-based with parent, feedback so our goal is by the end of this year, so we actually have draft written across it when we show the kids. The goal will really just keep it very simple, right? These rules are simple, they're applicable, as we told the children the other day, in every area of your life, not just at Wampus, right? Just if you carry yourselves through these three things, you're gonna do great. So we're trying to keep it simple for the kids.
However, we did, there's something that we always taught that we ended up really kind of hammering home. It's easy to do what's expected when everyone's watching. Real commitment is really when you can do that, do the right thing when no one is looking, and that hit home. And so it's a matter of making those good choices always as best as you can. And so with that said, when we are watching, the Bobcat cards. How can I earn my Bobcat? Did you bring any?
I have one in my pocket. It's kind of wrinkled though.
You tried to give one to me this
I
week.
did. It's actually Bobcat card.
I was outside helping with arrivals.
This one's a little roughed up, but we tried to come up with an idea to, we didn't want to say catch kids being good, but just, last few years we'd maybe go into a classroom and say, you guys were great at lining up, I'm going to bring you outside for extra recess. Ms. McInerney and I would bring them out, and the teacher would get to breathe for a second. We'd bring them out for 15, 20 minutes, bring them back in. So we're trying to come up with a more formal way of doing that without putting a lot on our teachers. Our teachers have a lot going on. So we kind of came up with this idea of Bobcat cards where they earn it by class, right? So for example, yesterday, it was Arietta's class. The lunch monitor was speaking to another lunch monitor about something going outside, and they were all lined up in the cafeteria. I think they kind of knew I was watching, but they were all lined up in the cafeteria, just without even being told. They were in the correct location, they were in two lines, they're looking up, and we just said, all right, good job, here's a Bobcat card. So the idea behind this is you earn them as a class, even if an individual gets one, and then we're going to randomly have drawings during the announcements. So we may say, we're going to do it probably by the end of the week, saying anyone that earned a Bobcat card, you have till third period to bring them down to the office, and then we're going to do a drawing, and that class gets a extra recess. So Ms. Palmer and I will go down, arrange it with the class, hey, we're going to take you outside for 20 minutes. So we're kind of dangling the carrot a little bit, but the kids are kind of into it. So we're going to see how it goes. We didn't want to, maybe down the road we could give teachers these and they can reward their own class, but we didn't want to. Teachers got so much going on in the beginning of the year. We're kind of owning it now, and we're trying to look for those very good actions in the unstructured environments, right? So, not necessarily in a class, even though I went into a class and I wasn't supposed to do that. I went into a class and gave one. But we're trying to look for those moments. I was like, you guys are doing a good job. They started shouting. I was like, oh. But it's just a nice way, and hopefully to continue to build that community. I know some of us were walking around for a few minutes before we came down, and you'll see it at Back to School if you haven't had it. But we're really trying to get a lot of the Byram Hill spirit into this building, as far as the colors in the hallway, what the cafeteria looks like. This whole area around the library is all going to get new tile with the red and blue Byram Hills colors. We had a senior intern, before you leave today, we can show you, they painted the Bobcat head outside the cafeteria. Kids are into that, so we're really trying to get a lot of those colors into the
school spirit. And honestly, it really just creates a good buzz and vibe all throughout the school, and something that each class can connect to, because we're trying to make sure that everyone has that feeling of family and community. And so if everyone is working towards the same Bobcat goal, it's something that they could definitely relate to. And of course, it'll get bigger and wider, and we always say, the first thing they always say, can we earn more than one? I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
just keep on doing what you're doing. And I'm like, the more you're in it, the more you'll win it, kind of a thing. And I have to say again, it just really brings the whole school together, and we will continue to look for those opportunities to do so.
Young boy from Arietta's class said to me when I gave it to him, he said, now do I have to turn it in when you say it the first time? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I want to hang on to a bunch of them, so it ups my chances for winning recess down. I said, you do what you got to do, hand them in whenever you want. But just the thinking through that, I was like, that's kind of impressive.
That's determination, I gotta tell you. The school-wide meetings, and Mr. Mack is gonna pick up on this, but we did end up having like some half grade level meetings during that indoor recess, but we have had grade level meetings all of last week, and really just kind of honing in on one grade at a time, just because the expectation is different, or from third grade, fourth grade to fifth grade, from new into the building to the seniors in the building, and just focusing on what it is that they may need. We talked a little bit about when and Ms. Schmidt might go into a classroom, talk to a teacher, and the teacher's saying, okay, yeah, they need help walking in the hallways, or they might need help with empathy or gratitude. This is a great way to kind of address it as a community, because they all have that in common, and really just focusing on what the expectation is for that grade level.
And they're monthly by grade, and then we'll have a whole school wide. We do a holiday one where the music department leads it, but we'll do probably about 4 or 5 of those throughout the year where we bring everyone together. And this picture, that's what the cafeteria used to look like, because the last time we had a community meeting was before the pandemic, before the cafeteria was even done. So we kind of all cheered together, hey, we're back together in the cafeteria, in this nice, beautifully renovated cafeteria. The one highlighted thing here, that we only did one of them, but again, because the world stopped there in March of whatever year that was, 2020. But we started to have students lead our community meetings, which is kind of like intimidating, but kind of impressive. And we already have a 5th grader that came to us that has an idea that she wants to lead one with some of her friends. So I just want to go back to this. So this design of the paw print, right, which makes sense because it's a bobcat. These different options were actually created by 5th graders in the fall of 19. And they actually presented this to their classmates. They said, Mr. McInerney and Mr. Mack really want to do these 3 things. These are the rules. What can you do when you find yourself in a situation you weren't doing it? And they started to work through it. And then at the community meeting, the community meeting, they actually presented it to their colleagues, to their peers. So we've kind of said that. We started with 5th graders, really saying, hey, listen, if you have a good idea, talk to your teacher, come talk to us. We'll work with you. We can sit up here and do these community meetings every month, but we'd rather have you involved in this, because we want to, again, that's, I think, a lot of confidence and independence as you go to middle school. Like, you're gonna get up and talk in front of 2, that's not easy to do, but we already had one, second day of school, was like, hand up, can I come talk to you, schedule an appointment with me. I wasn't there, she rescheduled the appointment, and we had a conversation. Her mom reached out to me, she talked to her teacher. So we're just looking for that, which I think is just a wonderful thing for this age group.
Dave, I'm going to
Yes.
interrupt because I have to go to another meeting, but thank you all for coming, and I leave you in like really the most capable hands. I'm so excited with you to have that on.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Jen.
Have a good day, Jen. And we're almost done too. I know we've been going on, but this is exciting stuff to us. So you'll hear more about this at the back to school nights, but just so you understand the schedules of the day, if you're new to the district or in 3rd grade, your classroom teacher, you have ELA math, science, and social studies with that one teacher if you're in 3rd grade. In 4th and 5th grade, you switch. So if Ms. Palmer and I were 4th grade teachers, I would teach my kids ELA math and maybe science, and then she would teach her kids ELA math and social studies, and then we would switch. So you get to start, again, that's intentionally done because in the middle school, as you probably know, you are now dealing with 10 teachers. So we kind of do that intentionally. Your specials, there's 4 of them. The reason there's 4 and there's 5 days in a week because you have phys ed twice, that gives you your 5. In 4th and 5th grade, you can take a instrument lesson. In 4th grade, you start with just the instrument lesson. In 5th grade, you can take the lesson and an ensemble. And encore. Bear with me for like a minute and I'll try to explain this as best I can. So encore is the first 3 periods of the day. So right now it is 5th grade, and I'm not gonna talk about 5th because that's a little more confusing. 4th grade encore was the first period of the day as you walked in. The children go to their homeroom teacher, their classroom teacher, and then they go to encore. Encore, for lack of a better frame, is essentially one more special each day. So I am in Miss Richmond's class, and the first period of the day for encore, I have art, let's say for the month of September, okay? 5 days in a week. But I also play violin, and I also go to speech once a week. Okay, so my encore, which is 5 days. Okay, so I go to art maybe on Monday. On Tuesday, maybe I have my speech. On Wednesday, I go back to art. Thursday, I go back to art, and my lesson is on Friday. So we start, again, intentionally done to kind of, you got to prepare, because in the middle school, you're looking at that schedule, like, where am I going, right? So that's intentionally done. Then in 5th grade, in 3rd and 4th, you travel to encore with your class. In 5th grade, again, intentionally, we mix the kids up. So there's only 5 encore groups. They're assigned a letter, right? Which the youngster out there was like, what letter am I? And I'm like, who's your teacher? But you're assigned a letter, and then you rotate through 5 cycles of an additional special again. But in 5th grade, there's the added layer of an ensemble. So let's say you play violin, which means you're in the orchestra. So 5 days, you have a lesson one day, ensemble, encore, and then if you have speech, you're going to speech. So you really only go to encore maybe one time a week. But those kids are all mixed up, and again, that's intentionally done because I think as you're going through elementary school, you're with that cohort of kids for a long time. And we want to give you that opportunity, not only at lunch and recess, to be with your friends, maybe that aren't in your class, but we want to give you that opportunity during encore. Okay. Any questions about encore?
Well,
Yeah.
and another good thing to know about encore, like it is a quite unique schedule. In that
It is.
it's an extra period in the day where students can, of course, get, this extra special, so to speak, whether it be their instruments, or, this extra special. But then you have, like, maybe they have other needs, whether it be speech, PT, OT, whatever it is, where they can get that instruction without missing their core instruction. So it really is something that, as a school, allows the students to kind of get a lot of what they need without interrupting some of the other things that's core to their instruction.
I'll put my middle school hat on for just a second. I think when I was a counselor in 7th and 8th grade, sometimes children need services throughout their career, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes, let's say a child, needed a little extra math help or something like that. This is the time to do it during encore. Because as you get into middle school, there's just a lot. You start to have electives, you have a world language. This is the time to do it. So sometimes I have conversations with parents, I really don't want them to get the reading support, even though you're kind of saying you do, because they really want to go to encore. They want to be in the hub with Mr. Lovelace. And I so appreciate that, and I see the kid's perspective. I think from the parenting standpoint, if you're getting that call, like, hey, let's just get them a little extra math support reading, I strongly recommend take that recommendation, just because this is the time to do it. Because if that builds and it's not getting addressed, by the time you get to middle school, it just becomes a little bigger, of a thing to manage for a child. So just throwing that out there, I think, we've talked about that a little bit, but coming back to my middle school years, I know I would have those conversations. It was tough sometimes. These are just some reminders. Our fall conferences are coming up. If you haven't heard from your child's teacher, I'm sure you will. And those are the spring conferences. Within those dates, there is an evening. I think it's the second date each time. There's a half day, and there's also students in session, which is the children are here at school for, I think it's about 2.5 hours, where teachers have meetings going on, and we work with Ellen to provide some things for the children to do. We might have a presentation in the middle school. We might have some things over here for them, but we kind of cycle them through a few different activities, for those parents that can only come during the day when their child is in school. We have 2 report cards, but you're going to hear from your teachers. I think most of you, I'm sure, already have. Those are kind of the formal, like, mid and end of the year. Back to school nights, the 3rd already happened. 4th and 5th, if you have a 4th grader, it's this coming Monday. If you have a 5th, it's a week from, is today Tuesday? Yeah, it's a week from today. The Education Foundation and the PTSA, what they've done for our buildings, it's just incredible, and the support and the partnership. I know there's some reps from the Education Foundation and the PTSA here today. If you haven't seen the deck, we'll kind of walk you over there real quick if you want to see it too. But this was actually a grant that we started before the pandemic, and was such a blessing because we were able to have this outdoor deck that's covered when outdoor space was like, prime during the pandemic. So we use this all the time. Kids have started. I never wanted to let kids eat out there because I was worried about like mice. But we've started to eat out there, and the kids are responsible though about it. We're saying, look, you want to eat out here, you got to be responsible for it. You got to make sure you clean up. You can't be. And they've done a very nice job. Our most recent grant, the 5th grade, submitted you'll see it if you have a 5th grader. They have flexible seating in the classroom, kind of some different options for kids to sit. Which is really awesome. And then also our OT and PT specialists at Coleman Hill and Wampus worked together to submit a grant that was approved by the BHCF for a sensory walk creative art space. I mean, we just, all of these awesome spaces have just really been supported by the Education Foundation, and we have some ideas for this year too, so thank you. And the PTSA. So Sarah and Josephine, who are here today, have been, just wonderful to work with thus far this year. Josephine even brought us additional muffins today to prepare for everybody, so thank you. They provided us with a breakfast on Friday. That was a big surprise for the faculty and staff. They've donated money and time into just enhancing the building as well. I always put this up in every single one of my presentations, I think, because I'm guilty of it myself, where I just go like right to here if I had a problem with my kid. I do think someone once told me, your child is the most vulnerable when they go to bed. That's the time to really learn about what's really going on. And I took that advice. Sometimes it works with my third grader, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes kids come home, right, and it was a rougher day or something happened. I just think this is kind of a good try to, sometimes you gotta call Lisa, I get that. But as much as you can, I think sometimes as a parent, I've done it, right? I've made maybe my daughter a little more anxious about something than maybe I should have based on how I react, because I'm her parent and I want to protect her, right? But I think this is always, especially if you have a fifth grader, really just talk to them. Okay, what really happened in those moments where you think they're gonna open up, talk to your child's teacher. If you need Lisa or I, obviously we're here. But I think as parents, we don't want to automatically just react right away, especially in front of our kids. Because as we're teaching them how to kind of go through those things, I think sometimes that heightens it for them. I understand that sometimes things are heightened and you will call us, but I think that's always a good kind of step to follow. And I just like that quote. Success is best when it's shared. Your kids are with us for a very long time. I think Peggy always has this nice quote where she says something, I'm paraphrasing, but all children are gifts. They are unwrapped at different times. And it's so true, and I think that spoke to me a lot since I've come to elementary school, working with her, working with Lisa, everyone in this building. And we're going to share it together. They're here. You trust us with them. We're going to do our best to help them get through these next 3 years. There will be bumps. We may have some awkward phone calls, but we will work through it and ultimately just keep your child in mind to make them progress. So that's our kind of promise to you. CEO of Starbucks, I think, sums it up nicely, and it's going to be shared. And thank you for sharing them, with us. There, it's off to a very good start. I think Friday afternoon we were sitting there kind of like after dismissal, but we were like, you know what, this was great.
It's a good tire.
Yeah,
it's a good tire.
Yeah, it's nice. And I know Activity Bus. I know we're delaying it a little bit, and I'm just going to say the reason for it is there are like 8 million moving pieces to dismissal, and we have to assure everything is calm inside the building and outside of the building before we introduce that wrinkle. God bless Phil Peterson and everyone he works with in transportation. He's working through those routes right now, and we know buses are a little slower than they will be come November. But once he's working through all those routes, we're organizing all the outside providers. We're organizing the parent in charge that comes to pick up for soccer. So it's a lot. I know people want it to start. I'm sorry we're not starting it until the 28th, but we promise you once we get going on then, we will be ready for you. But it wouldn't be fair to anyone if we are not ready. Right now we're not. We still are working through things to make sure kids understand how that dismissal works. So thank you for your patience. I'm sorry for the delay, but we will start it on the 20th. Thank you guys. I appreciate you coming in. Oh, thank you.